What's up, everybody? James Gunn has been opening up more and more about the DCU with each passing week, and he said something recently that sparked a theory for me regarding the recently announced Sergeant Rock movie. Before we get into today's video, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any videos and streams throughout the week. But with that being said, let's get into the video. Alright, I gotta be honest, I never saw myself making Sergeant Rock videos when I started this channel. I didn't even know who he was, if we're being totally honest. But now, with the announcement of the movie, the talent involved both in front of and behind the camera, and the possibilities for it inside of James Gunn's DCU, I'm starting to buy in. Like, the hype is coming for me in the sense that the theories are starting to cook, and that's kind of my scale for how excited I am for a comic book project. But this all spawns out of something James Gunn recently said in an interview with Screen Rant that opens the door for these to even be possible. Gunn said, "We're creating a universe that's like Star Wars, where there are different times, different places, different things, and like Game of Thrones, where the characters are a little more morally complex." Now, the important part of that for this video is the different times. That tells me that the DCU isn't necessarily going to be a linear timeline, not that the MCU has been, considering Captain America, the first Avenger, and the first Captain Marvel movie, but it's very important when Sergeant Rock comes into the picture. Not only are a lot of Sergeant Rock stories set in the past, with the appearances I'm personally familiar with being set in World War II as well as the Vietnam War, and I believe he's fought in quite a few other wars too, but having the possibility of doing a World War II story inside the DCU opens a wide door to reach into the corners of DC Comics and bring others into the picture. But before we get into those possibilities, let's make sure everybody knows the basics on Sergeant Rock. His name is Frank Rock, and he first appeared way back in 1959, but the first comic titled Sergeant Rock with him as a titular character didn't come until 1977. As I mentioned, he's fought in World War II, the Vietnam War, and he was a Pennsylvania steel mill worker before that, with the attack on Pearl Harbor inspiring his enlistment. Now, Sergeant Rock doesn't necessarily have any powers. Well, actually, he just flat out doesn't have powers, but he's one hell of a soldier. He can take down planes with a submachine gun with precision aim. He's a dog in hand-to-hand combat with, and this is kind of what gave me pause concerning the powers, close to superhuman strength and endurance. And to put it simply, Sergeant Rock is as close to a super soldier as you can get without being one. He can eat gunshots and survive explosions, and the extent of these extreme feats does vary depending on who's telling the story. But the closest thing he probably has to a superpower is a sort of sixth sense that's referred to as his combat antenna. It's like an internal warning system for him that, at the very least, gives him a chance to alert his boys, Easy Company, of the imminent danger. Alright, now that you guys are familiar with the Sergeant, let's dive into the three possibilities of both hero teams, well, teams I should say, and just a singular, although very powerful hero that could appear in this movie if it's set in the past. We'll get the solo out of the way first, but it's not to be overlooked as this movie could give us our DCU debut of Wonder Woman. Now, you kind of run into a problem of Patty Jenkins having done a Wonder Woman war movie with her first one in the DCU. But in this case, it would almost be reversed roles for Wonder Woman and the soldiers in the sense of their importance to the story and, of course, the title. It would still be Wonder Woman helping the soldiers, but from a different perspective, and obviously absent of everything on Themyscira. Also, fighting alongside the humans in major events is such a big part of Wonder Woman's history, whether normies would know it or not, that I don't think it would be a big problem for the movie. As long as we get a fresh face in the role, and even a new war, with Patty Jenkins' movie being set in World War I don't see any issue. But if that were to be a roadblock for that possibility, you already have a team of, I don't know if I'd call them heroes, but you have a team in the DCU that could easily show up, the Creature Commandos. This team has gone through many different iterations, with the newest kicking off the DCU this week and been in many different eras as well, so this is almost a shoo-in. Gunn's talked about the possibility for these characters to appear in the future of the DCU and in different mediums, so it definitely feels like we could see a Creature Commandos team in this movie. I'd even go as far as to say this is a perfect opportunity for Gunn to showcase a second roster for the team, which I guess would technically be the first if we start talking about timelines, but you get the point. It honestly comes down to the title of this first chapter in James Gunn's DCU, Gods and Monsters, and the fact that this rather unknown team is kicking off the universe makes them feel important. It's a show Gunn was working on before he took over, so obviously a passion project for him, and as we've seen with Peacemaker, he's going to find ways to integrate those stories and those characters into his work. Finally, a team I absolutely need to see in the DCU at some point in time or just in live action on the big screen, the JSA. Another team with a vast roster of rotating members, but also another team that fought in World War II. They're like the creature commandos opposites, humans, and heroes, so it just depends what angle they'd want to go with in the DCU. Maybe, and now I've got the tinfoil hat on nice and snug, maybe we see something go wrong with the JSA being involved in this, which then in turn causes a situation we have in the present of the DCU with Superman, with corrupt heroes being the only ones out there really, and maybe, the kindness in the world died with the JSA, as James Gunn has said that Superman is coming into a world where kindness is old fashioned. Again, just wild speculation as it's so tough to read where James Gunn's DCU is headed, but it makes too much sense for a version of this team with the classics like Jay Garrick, Dr. Fate, Alan Scott Green Lantern, and Hawkman to show up in this movie. I also wouldn't mind keeping Pierce Brosnan and Aldous Hodge, who are of course from the Rock Atom unfortunately, as Dr. Fate and Hawkman, but I know people want a hard reset on the universe. However, with all that being said, there's also the chance, and it is a pretty decent chance, although less exciting, I think that's why I saved it for the end, that we just get a Sergeant Rock movie. I do think a strong war movie that's just that with a little DC touch here and there would be a huge hit. It's not like his stories are bad, they're just in a deep corner of the comics that not many go to. So it's kind of like, what the hell is Gunn doing? But Rock and Easy Company are a fun, crazy bunch that can cause some chaos. You also have filmmaker Luca Guadagnino in talks to direct, and it would be a change of pace for him to make some big comic book movie. Something like Sergeant Rock does feel like a thing he can come in and make an Inglorious Bastards or a Saving Private Ryan or even a Dunkirk, one of those war movies that immediately comes to mind as one of the greats when you think of them. Regardless, I'm excited to see what Luca and Daniel Craig, who's apparently in talks to star in the movie, bring to this character as well as the new DCU. And so that'll do it for this video. Hopefully I didn't get too crazy towards the end there, but I truly believe this movie could end up being one of the best from the new DCU as everybody keeps overlooking it. But let me know what you'd want to see from a Sergeant Rock movie down in the comments below and make sure you have a great day.